mostly not the USA, forced Versailles on the Germans, and the Versailles Treaty caused Germany to go bankrupt. It made them declare the war. And I'm saying, had the United States stayed home and not gone to war, Versailles wouldn't have happened, and Hitler never would have came to power. Oh. That's a German viewpoint. Remember, I'm tainted. Woo! Think about it.
There's a couple of things, and I'll just give you guys a heads up. Some of the stuff that Mr. Etter's talking about, it's really neat for me, who's kind of gone through, and you guys will get to high school and you'll start to have some of these different conversations about World War II, World War I, and a little more in depth. But it's really interesting to hear someone who's got a first-hand experience from it. It's awesome.
You know why I got in trouble in high school?
Because you knew more than
I disagreed with my history teacher, and one time I bought something to her, and I forget this what about the assassination. She said Germany started World War I because they sank the Lusitania. And I said, well, didn't you hear about Sarajevo? She said, where'd you read that? And I said, in my book. And I bought my history book to school. And I got in trouble again. What? Because my history book wasn't German. So she took it to the German teacher. And the German teacher said, that's right. But you think she would have given me an A for doing that? I got a C. Because I disagreed with her.
After World War I, these countries ordered Germany to pay them back for the money that had been spent on the war, which led to going bankrupt. So Germany couldn't afford these payments and went bankrupt. Right. All right. So now we're going to talk about the Nazi Party. All right. Do we know who the gentleman is up front? Yeah. Who is he? Hitler. All right. So the Nazi Party.
Hitler staff.
In 1933, Adolf Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany. What does it mean to be the Chancellor of Germany, Mr. Etter?
Okay, in 1932, there was an election. Hindenburg, the old general that beat the Russians, ran for president, and Hitler says, I'm going to run for president against him. Guess who won?
Hitler.
No!
Your guy.
Hindenburg won.
Oh.
Hindenburg won.
Is that also the Hindenburg was named after?
That was the Zeppelin, yes.
The Zeppelin?
Now, this Hindenburg guy was 86 years old.
Oh, wow.
He was pretty old. So what his advisor said, you know, since Hitler was in the election, why don't we give him a position and let's make him chancellor? That way we can control him.
Yeah,
Well, guess what happened? Hitler took control, all right, but Hindenburg died. 86. Hindenburg died, so Hitler says, this country's in a terrible mess, we have no president. Since I came in second in the election, there were only 2 people running. Why don't you give me emergency power for 5 years, and I will turn it around? That's how he got control of the government. And the stupid legislature, which was controlled by the Nazis, said, we'll give you emergency power for 5 years. You know what Hitler said? Thank you, you are now dissolved, go home. I'm now in the country. And that's how we got suckered in to this idiot, whom I feel very, very bad about. Because
Here's the question, did he have the right to? If you're in control, can you now change the laws?
Yeah.
Right?
he got emergency power.
If you have emergency power, president, whatever it is, you've got veto power pretty much over everything. So, if they vote him in and say you've got power, can you turn around and fire them all?
Yeah.
Sure can. Okay, if we're looking at this, you know, for him, take this with a grain of salt. It was a smart power play for him, correct?
Yes.
Didn't help anyone else out, but for him, pretty quick thinking. Right? He was a member of the National Socialist Party, also known as the Nazis. So, one more. The Nazis promised that the campaign to put Germany back to work and save the failing economy. How much do you want to go into that?
I want to go into just one big thing. Hitler says Germany needs more land. And where do we get more land? Well, we can go east and we can go over Poland and Russia and we get this land because those people living there are just Slavs. And you know what Hitler said? Read the book. It says, if the Americans can do it to the Native Americans or Indians, we can do it to the Slavs. Because the Slavs were no better than the Indians. And a lot of people believed that. And they thought they would take it over. And Hitler really thought that Great Britain would join him in doing that. But he was a little demented that way. But think about that. What did America do to the Indians? Now, we weren't there. We didn't do that. But, I mean, I remember the old westerns that said the only good Indian is a dead Indian. That's what he tried to say about Slavs. And that was bad. That was bad news.
Heather.
Why did they start calling themselves Nazis?
Good question, because Nazi is a shortening of Nationalsozialistische Arbeiterpartei. And you couldn't say that. So Nazi, Nationalsozialistische Deutsche Arbeiterpartei. Nazi, Sozialistische. It became a nickname for him.
Robbie.
Why does Hitler have like that kind of mustache?
You know what we called that mustache when we were little kids? We called it a Schnuckbunzer. A snotbreaker. See, we weren't very nice about that because he wanted to be different. But he was...
New fashion statement. Made a fashion statement.
Why did they name it after him?
Because Hindenburg died, and Hindenburg was a great man. Hindenburg was the president of the Weimar Republic. He tried to turn Germany into a republic. But Hitler came to power at that time, and Hindenburg, and in those days, in the 36, 37, 38, the Germans were controlling transportation between the USA and Europe. And they thought the dirigible or Zeppelin would be the answer because it went so fast and so quietly. Well, after the Hindenburg went down over Lake Hurston, because they couldn't get the proper gas for it, it kind of blew that. But Hindenburg, it was an honor for the president.
Helen?
I was just wondering, you guys, like, the Nazi party had so much power, but they also had so much technology that they, you know, invented and acquired. How come you guys didn't win? Because you guys...
I'll tell you exactly why we didn't win. My father was a master sergeant. My father was a tank commander, and he had this Tiger tank, and he said, Dad, I said to him, Dad, our tank was pretty good. He said, our Tiger tank was so good, we could knock an American piece of junk off at 3 kilometers, the Sherman tank. And of course, being a typical 15, 16-year-old kid, I said, Dad, if our tanks were so good, how come we lost? And you know what my dad said? He said it's because the American education system. It's a very good question because he said, when that German tank lost the tread in 1944 and 45, nobody could fix it. They had to get a specialist in Berlin. And in 44, 45, that specialist couldn't come down to Italy. So guess what happened? When they knocked off a piece of tread from that German tank, the American kid with his high school education got out and fixed it. The Germans were over-specialized. Why do you think I drive a Chevy and not a BMW or Mercedes?
Because it is made
It's cheaper to fix. That's why. And that's why the Germans lost, because they were over-specialized. Also, they had bad leadership.
Well, and then the other thing I might add to that, they got pretty arrogant for a while, too, correct?
Absolutely.
You guys know what arrogant means, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thinking that you're bigger than you are.
Yeah.
And part of that, I think we'll start talking about, is they started biting off more than they can chew. They were doing very well in the war. For a while, they were kicking butt.
Good away.
But then they started going, well, guess what? We can do it this, we can do it even better. And that happens.
Absolutely true.
So, World War II and the Holocaust.
Holocaust.
Is it?
It's Holocaust.
Depends on how, the Germans say Holocaust, the Americans say Holocaust.
Holocaust, okay.
Holocaust.
In 1939, Germany invaded the
Sounds like
neighboring
Holy
country of
Cross.
Poland. This began World War II. And then during World War II, the Nazis forced the Jewish people to concentration camps. They believed the Jews were a drain on the German economy and said they weren't truly German. Millions of Jews died during the Holocaust.
What was Holocaust?
Let me explain this to you. And I give World War II lectures to high schools. Why were all these Jewish people living in Germany? Because they were invited there by the kings and queens of Germany in the Middle Ages. Because remember, if we were living in the Middle Ages and if we were Christians, we were Catholic, which means universal. And you know what Catholics and universal people can't do in the Middle Ages? They can't lend money. Because what did Jesus do to the money lenders in the temple? Well, the Jewish folks didn't have this problem. because they didn't believe in Jesus, so they were invited to Germany, and they made a lot of money, lending out money, and they became good German citizens.